Alrighty, guys, I'm on a new Facebook account. Today on our videos, I'm in Facebook jail. Which is pretty rattling. I was pretty rattled yesterday. All my posts are gone. All my beautiful friends are gone. But we'll conquer and overcome, won't we, Dan?
You will, my man. I thought Jimmy McDonald or Jimmy Popiano is all I see on Facebook. And yesterday I was like, where is the great man? And then you sent me the message that
Oh,
it had happened. We talked about it on a walk 2 weeks ago. We said that it's going to happen. And there we go.
there we-
It was true.
yeah, I kept getting all these warnings and things like that, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Just get stronger. But so guys, the reason we have Dan on, Dan's actually an expert in semi-private personal training. And look, one of the things I like to present to you guys, I like to give you guys like the best content from the best people, right? But I've never done semi-private personal training, so I truly have no idea how to run it to the level that Dan has. And Dan has quite a good story about personal training, why he's so passionate. So, Dan, I guess maybe let's start there about why you believe in semi-private personal training and a little bit about your background in how you ran it at Coastal and what you've seen over the years as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, look, so I'm a big believer of the semi-private product, and it was really born out of need. So I opened a personal training studio in Sydney's Eastern Beaches 13 years ago now. And about 3 years into operating that studio, it was primarily one-to-one based. That was the main model. We'd do a couple of little group classes, but it was one-to-one based. And I had a team of trainers delivering a lot of one-on-one sessions. And whilst it was successful in that I was building a great clientele base, we had a very solid product, I had a good team. What kept happening was the income would undulate. It would go up, it would go down. And it was just like this roller coaster going up and down. And it would depend on if team members left. It would depend on whether the clients were sick, whether their kids were sick, whether they were going away for their European vacations in our winter. And so my income was up and down like a yo-yo. And really, like as soon as a trainer left, it would be this enormous hit to me. And it was so profound and it used to rattle me because the clients would have this really close relationship with the trainer. Not so much, even though I was building community and culture, they had a relationship with the trainer because they were spending perhaps, 2, 3, 4 hours a week just with them in a one-on-one basis. And so I knew that it wasn't the perfect model, but I didn't know what the answer was. And I went over to the US. I used to go over to the US every single year. You and I have been, mate, and we go to different places. We go to different conferences. We go to different gyms. And I was at a conference, a Perform Better conference. And I wasn't there really to learn about business at that stage. I was there really to learn more about, the technical sides of training. And I just, by chance, I sat in a room with a guy called Rick Mayo. And he was telling his story about how he'd built this incredibly, profitable gym in Atlanta, Georgia, and how it was amazing and everything else. And then it just fell apart because all these trainers left. They went and started their own businesses and everything else. And it was all one-on-one. And he's like, the solution I found was semi-private. And it was just like the penny dropped for me. I was just like, wow, that model makes all the sense in the world. So I turned over my sheet, my piece of paper. And as you know, Jimmy, I'm a numbers guy. And I wrote down the numbers and I did the business model on the back of the piece of paper. And I was like, holy hell, this is it. This is the answer. This is what I've been looking for. And I can't wait to implement it. Now, I do things fairly slowly. I will say that. I'm pretty diligent in the way that I do things. And so I crafted this system, and it took me probably about 6 months to craft the system, the exercises that we were going to choose, the assessment, how long the time frame was, what equipment are we using, how do we onboard them, and all of these things, all of these elements. And then I deployed it. I did a beta group, and then we launched it. And it was an absolute game changer on a couple of fronts. Number one, and I can go into more detail on this, but clients got way better results. That's number one. Number two, my trainers and I enjoyed it far more. We were loving it. We were challenged. We were engaged. And it was the best thing we could have ever done from a just deriving fulfillment and joy from our craft. And then number three, money wise. It made us so much more profitable per unit of time. I had limited space, so I needed to treat it like a retail shop, making sure that every square meter was being utilized and optimized to generate income. And this was a far better model for doing so. So that's where the love really stems from, my man. That's why I'm a big believer in it. And I've been an advocate for it for the last 10 years.
And so Alan Cosgrove does semi-private, hey, in California.
He does, and I bought his DVD series. I don't know, maybe some of your listeners don't even know what a DVD is, but I bought his DVD series, Alwyn Cosgrove, because at that point I was like, Rick's on the freaking point, but I'm going to go and find whoever else is doing it right now. And Alwyn Cosgrove was one of the real pioneers at Results Fitness.
I think he has a lot of, I guess, people like to be known, like to have something they're known for, right? And he was known to have the most profitable gym per square meter in the world, and not a bad thing to be known for. That's a fucking
definitely not. Definitely not. And I think Rick Mayo would probably be he would compete with him on that. So he was sharing his numbers, and he was in a place which is not flushed with cash. Yet he was doing about $3 million, and semi-private was the real jewel in the crown. And Rick Mayo's gone on and done marvelous things with his semi-private model around the world. He's licensed it to a lot of places, Anytime Fitness in particular. But for me, it was a profound tipping point in my business. It was really one of the significant turning points.
And mate, let's go. So for maybe some people, they don't understand exactly what semi-private is, because everything gets all mixed up in the wash in the fitness industry. So what do you consider semi-private personal training? What is it, Dan?
Yeah, perfect. Great question, because a lot of the time, people either get it mixed up with small group, they might get it mixed up with pairs training or trio training and the like as well. So this is how I kind of classify semi-private training. So it is the perfect mix between one-on-one training and small group training, and I'll talk about the elements of each. So from a personal training perspective, you get the individualized assessment. So we make sure that we design a program based around your ability, your needs, your goals. All right. You get personalization of the program. And I'll talk about programming a little bit later, but there's got to be different aspects of it that must be personalized. So you're doing something different to everybody else. The third part of it is the progression, the regressions, the reassessments, the new renewed programs and everything else are also personalized. So those elements are personalized, and you're doing it with 2, 3, 4 other people. Generally, we work between 3 to 6 in our semi-private model. If you're in a commercial gym, it's closer to 3. If you got your own space and you use what we call semi-private 2.0, it's closer to 6. On the other side, you get the best from a group environment. So the way you design the program has to have a group element involved and integrated in it. So then they're talking with each other. Then they're, having banter with one another. And it's that real key, that key driver that we learn in self-determination theory that drives internal motivation, relatedness. We foster relatedness. So they compete against each other. They encourage one another. They warm up together. So you get the perfect marriage between personal training, group training. All right, as you go through. That is what semi-private training is. Can be also classified as small group PT. But the few non-negotiables is it's personalized. There is individual components. There are group components as well. So
it's about 4 to 6 people per group.
Correct. Yeah. So it depends on the model. So I've taught it to many, many trainers that are in commercial fitness facilities, and they have generally a little less space and less access to equipment. So they may be closer to the 3, where if you've got your own space and everything else, and we do a few things to make the programming simpler, you can get it up to about 6. Now, Alwyn Cosgrove will go higher. He'll go up to about 8, but he'll have 2 trainers.
Okay. And then so in that, let's maybe cover the technical format and the layout. So does everyone have like a customized program? So they're all doing different lifts, or is everyone doing a hip hinge and just different variations? How does it work like that?
Yeah, great question. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. So this is my general format. Mind you, I've taught this to people with differing training philosophy. So mine is a functional training approach. I've taught it to people that have more of a typical kind of powerlifting approach, people that have more of a hypertrophy approach, and it still applies. But the movement preparation is the first component. And what we like to do there is keep it fairly like they're all doing the same movement preparation. All right. Even though they might have some particular injuries, I might give them 1 or 2 personalized movement prep things to do. You know, you're a little tight in your ankles, Jimmy, so we're going to give you a self-myofascial release on a roller that we're not going to give the others.
You're a bit stressed. Your Facebook got shut down. You're going to get a massage.
That's it. Plenty of that. So, and I learned this from DeFranco's. I went and trained over in DeFranco's, and he's got movement preparation. Yeah, that was pretty cool. He's got this movement preparation template, and everybody does it together, and you update that every month. So that's the first component you do as a group. And then in terms of the individual, so we do a core component, which is 2 exercises paired together, anti-extension with an anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion. Then we do full body strength movement. If you're more advanced, it might be a barbell complex, Turkish get up. If you're just brand new, it might be a TRX squat and row. Then we do strength components. We do 2 supersets. We do a hip hinge paired with a push exercise. Then we do a knee dominant movement done with a pull exercise. And then we do a metabolic finisher that we do as a group and we do as a unit. So it might be 10-to-1 burpees and kettlebell swings. And, you know, everyone's racing against each other and they're slapping each other and encouraging each other. So in terms of that, that's the general skeleton. And there's 2 ways you can go about it. So when I launched semi-private in this country, I did everybody's going to do an anti-extension exercise. But, you know, someone really advanced. So, Jimmy, you come in, you're an athlete. You're doing that anti-extension. Yours might be a plank with your feet elevated in a TRX, where Julie, she comes in, she's 60 years of age. She's sedentary. She's never stepped in a gym before. She's doing a 4-point kneel. You're both doing anti-extension, but I'm personalizing the movement to where you are in the journey. And that would layer out throughout the whole session template itself. Now, semi-private 1.0. I went over to the US a couple of years ago again, and I hung around people like Justin Grinnell, Frank Nash. These guys are doing well over $1 million in their facilities, and they're amazing at semi-private. And I said, how are you guys doing semi-private right now? And they said, now we do 2.0. I go, what the hell is 2.0? Tell me about this. And it's where it's generally everyone will do the same movement, but it's up to the coach to be appropriately regress them and progress them because they know the client so well. So now it might be, well, our anti-extension, everyone's going to do a plank, just a standard plank. But I know Jimmy. Jimmy's an animal. So he's going to do an L point. He's going to touch his elbow crease in between for that extra level of instability. Where Julie, I know that inner core is not working as well as you'd like. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a 6-point plank where we're going to drop the knees. And so the coach has to be able to really know the client and regress and progress on the fly. But you've got just the one session that is what most people do most of the time as you move through. So there's your 1.0 and 2.0.
Mate, no coaches that rely on TV screens there, bro. Jesus,
no TV screens. And so look, I guess that's one of the big things. Unless you're a good coach, don't do semi-private. Honestly, like I know it's pretty harsh, but if you haven't been a coach cutting your teeth for at least a year, don't look at semi-private because it's going to challenge you. Like I was a good coach. You know, I'd been a coach for at least 5 years by the time I did semi-private, and it challenged me to my bloody core. And that's what I liked about it. But yeah, you got to be dialed in. You're not this is the big difference between team training and semi-private. Team training, you can run it off a screen. Team training, you're all about energy. Team training, you are all about, having that voice high, yelling encouragement, making it an experience. Semi-private training is where you are a coach. It is where you have to be able to regress, progress, change the movement, make sure that the form is perfect on every single movement the person does. So Team training, a little bit more cheerleader-esque. You know, it's a very big skill set. I don't want to diminish it at all because some people are more wired that way. Semi-private training, you're much more technical. You like more of an intimate environment, and the standards of the lifts and the movements just go up significantly.
And so for a group of 4 to 6, what do you need? A couple of squat racks, barbells? What do you use? Kettlebells, sandbags? What kind of equipment are people needing to run a good semi-private?
Yeah, really good question. So a lot of people go, Dan, I just don't know how it's different from my group training. And I said, well, look, it's different on a number of fronts. It's different from obviously the personalization, the group size. The other thing that it should be different on, and I know I had, chats to you guys at Code 5 when you were there, was strip out all the technical lifts out of your team training. That you shouldn't be, I'll probably get myself in trouble with some of the things I say on your podcast, Jimmy, but I don't believe you can teach really technical movements in a big group environment really, really well, okay? So strip out all the technical movements, and if people want to learn it, they want to learn a barbell snatch, they want to do a power clean, they want to do, a Turkish get-up, they want to do a double kettlebell snatch, that goes in the semi-private because that's technical, bloody stuff that you need to be hands-on and you need to build up over an extended period of time. So take all that stuff out. And generally, that's a big kind of slap in the face for a lot of people because that's the way they've always done it. But team training is going to be a little bit more cardio-based, a little more endurance-based, a little more experience-based, a little bit more caloric expenditure. Semi-private's going to be a lot more strength-based, a lot more technical-based, a little bit more rehab-based generally. So the movement, what you want from an equipment perspective, definitely barbells, couple of cages. You definitely want some kettlebells in there. My bias is coming in there. You want some dumbbells. You want some sandbags. You want some straps. You want some med balls. You want some bands. You've got that. You've got all the ingredients you need for a really good semi-private. Mind you, if you're in a commercial facility and you can't get all of that and you're like, that just sounds too difficult, you can still do it. You can do it really well, but you've just got to be a little bit more flexible. So definitely a 2.0 is going to suit you a lot more than a 1.0 from this type. And you're just going to have to be a little bit more flexible because if someone's on, the Smith machine or whatever it is you're programming, then you need to have an adequate replacement movement. So I like kettlebells a lot, as you know. My bias is towards that a lot of the time because you can do so much with so little. In my studio back in the day, we'd have all the way from 4s up to 48 kilos in at least pairs, 4s or 6s in terms of the numbers that we'd have. And so, all right, someone's in the squat rack. Well, pick up a couple of 48s and front squat that, my man. We can see. Yeah. So that's the general equipment. And you want to have a dedicated zone. This is the other thing. If you've got a physical facility, you have a dedicated semi-private training space. So if you come into my facility in Sydney in Momentum 360, we have a dedicated semi-private training zone that has four cages. It's got all the kettlebells down there and everything else. And we just segregate it with all the cardio equipment from the group training space, the team training space.
And mate, with the training splits and stuff, we're gonna get into sales in a bit, but do you recommend people do 2, 3, 4 sessions a week? How do you kind of map out those splits with the programming and stuff?
Yeah, so we generally recommend a minimum of 2. So you've got to commit to this product 2 times a week. That's how you're going to get the best programs. We generally will do, it depends on whether you're an A or B, a 1.0 or a 2.0. If you're 2.0, the workout just changes every day, but you'll do it in an 8-week block, for example. So you'll do 8 weeks of programming and they'll repeat X amount of times. If you're doing a 1.0, then we have an A or B program, and then you'll reassess and change the program kind of every 6 to 8 weeks. Generally, 45 minutes is a nice time frame. I think 30 minutes is too short. An hour can absolutely work. When I've done it with some of the lifting businesses, they do an hour and a half because of all the preparatory drills and everything else. So, but generally, if you're looking at a general pop product, 45 minutes is enough time.
And mate, I guess you probably talk to a lot of people about doing semi-private, and when we're walking on Sunday, we're talking just about how much this team training is fucking exploding. You've got F45, you've got Body Fit, you've got Orange Theory, you've got every other like Jim, we're just with a sole trader kind of copying that philosophy. What are some of the things that, I guess people worry about when changing over from, team training to semi-private, or, adding it into their service? Is there anything that, that people who might be listening might be really thinking about when adding this into their gym?
Yeah, look, I think one of the challenges a lot of people have is they go, all right, well, it makes a lot of sense. I want to introduce it into my facility, and they don't get as many of their current members doing it. And that makes sense to me, because if your current members wanted something else, then they'd go somewhere else. Like, they're in your facility doing the team training because they absolutely love it. And so at that point, what I would say is you got to do a bit of a puppy dog close. You got to give them an experience to show them it's different, to show the different coaching, the personalization, the different lifts, the overall different experience as you go through. So that's a challenge for a lot of people, because they immediately think by adding it, a lot of their current members are just going to jump on and do it. That's not the case, because they love what you do already. So that's a consideration. The other one that people really get caught up on is just, I don't know how to make this different from the group. I don't know how to make this different from the group. Well, I've just given you half a dozen ways that it's different from the group. It's the lifts that you do. It's the equipment that you use. It's the way that you coach it. It's the space. It's the size. It's all of those elements make it really distinctly different. So just make sure that you get, there is a clear difference. So when people are comparing, do I do team training or semi-private, they're comparing apples and oranges. They really, really are when they do so. So there are a couple of the big challenges people have. Then it comes into the pricing. How do I price this thing? And then it comes into the marketing of it as well, which I know we're going to get into.
Mate, I know when we didn't run semi-private, we did like 1-on-10, like kind of small group. And that was the advice you gave us, because we did big groups, like 2 coaches, about 40 people. It was like boot camp. And what we had to do in our boot camps is we took all barbell lifts out of it. So it was just like kind of, kettlebells, sandbags, really good workouts. But to progress, then we took things out of the main group and then added them into the smaller groups, which made like a massive difference to the way that you can sell it, because it is noticeably different. If you're just running like small groups, the same kind of programming style and stuff, of course, people aren't going to change over for that higher price point. There's no real need. And mate, we're kind of bridging in. Let's talk to me a bit about pricing. So how do you, price it? Is it per session? Is it unlimited packs? How do you kind of do that?
Yeah. So look, again, there's a number of different ways. So whenever I look at a business, I always personalize the semi-private system for what they need within their demographic, within their philosophies, and within their space. So I'll give some ranges. We have people delivering semi-private in our programs anywhere from, and we don't sell per session, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but it equates to about $35 on the low end per session, all the way up to about $80 per session. So within it, we've got everyone in between. Generally, we find people are more in the kind of $40 to $50 mark, all right, in terms of the per session rate. But we don't sell it in per session. We sell it in membership. So, i.e., you get access to 2 sessions per week for $89 a week. Now, that means you don't accrue credit for your sessions. You got 2 weeks to make up for any missed sessions, but that means the debit just comes every single week. You got $89 landing in your bank account from that client, and the onus is on them to book their own sessions. This is another big question we get. Dan, do you group people? Do you group all the males that want to lift heavy? Do you group all the rehab clients together? No, it's personalized. So it doesn't matter. You have people of differing ages, differing abilities, different demographics, and you just have a booking system and first in, first served as you go in. So yeah, it depends on the price range. We've got a guy right now in Melbourne, Mateo. He's up at $80 for his first session, but he's delivering a lot of extra value within that product as well. And then we have some people down as low as $35. But you do the numbers. Let's say, middle of the mark, 5 people per session. Middle of the mark, we're charging $45 thereabouts per session. You're now making 220 per unit of 45 minutes. I don't think there'd be many coaches making a consistent 220 every 45 minutes out there. That changes your life. That changes your business. Clients love it. Now they get 2 sessions to the price of $89, which is really like a one-on-one. They're getting double the amount of attention for the cost of a single session.
Yeah, and it's we'll have to probably do a podcast next week on memberships, because the one-on-one personal training gyms, like one of their metrics is how many sessions are owing, because they're like, hey, Dan, you get 2 sessions a week, instead of like, hey, you get access to, 4 per fortnight, and it just cripples their cash flow. Like I know some people in the personal training world that have like 20-30 grand in money owing for people with sessions. They got massive clubs doing like 200 sessions a week, and that membership model makes a lot of sense. So then it's like, hey, you get access to this many sessions, then it starts again fresh in 2 weeks. I really like that. And mate, let's talk about marketing, okay? Because when Dan and I did a couple of posts on a few social media pages, just to get some questions. The biggest one was about marketing positioning. So how do you market it? How do you get people interested from not knowing what you do to jumping in for their first session? What kind of offers and how do you do that?
Yeah, look, I think one of the big things is semi-private training means nothing to the consumer. So don't market it as semi-private training. That's the first thing that I tell people. It is personal training. You are still personalizing it. They know what personal training is, so market it as personal training. But I was thinking a lot about this, Jimmy. I think where people get caught up on it is they're like, I don't know how to differentiate it from group. And I'm like, well, you sell the sizzle, not the steak. You've got to actually think about what are the outcomes and the benefits of semi-private versus team training. And you sell the benefits and the outcomes. And then you say the best way to accomplish this is through our personal training. You're going to do personal training. It's a personalized program that you're going to do with 2 to 3 or maybe even 4 other people. And so it's flipping it on its head, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't know how to sell it. And I'm like, well, you should be doing a diagnostic sell. You should be asking a series of open-ended questions on what people need, and then you allocate the appropriate product or service that best suits them. And in many cases, like we right now selling it off a 21-day kickstart. So we do a 21-day kickstart for $147. We will either give someone unlimited access to our groups for that, or we will give them 2 semi-privates a week for that. But we will allocate which one based on our diagnostic sell. Oh, what, you've had a knee replacement in the last 6 months, you got a lower disc pain, you haven't been in a gym in the last 6 months, you're going to go on our semi-private system. It's personal training. It's personalized to you. We're going to modify it around everything that you've just told us and we've screened you for, and we're going to give you a personalized program that you're going to do 2 times per week. And this is why. These are the benefits of doing it. So, yeah, you got to sell the sizzle, not the steak, people.
And, mate, when people do this really well, do they still have one-on-one personal training, or just kind of wipe out one-on-one and just do semi-privates? How does that kind of look for the average gym owner?
Yeah, look, I think in many cases, it largely wipes out one-on-one. You still might have it as a real top-tier product. And I was just speaking to our team about doing it the same so people could really see the value proposition on it. Hey, look, what I recommend based on your background and injuries is that you need personal training so we can really customize it to you so you get stronger and you have less pain. Now, personal training is done 2 ways in our gym. You can do it with 2 to 3 other people, and you're going to spend $90 a week for 2 sessions. Or you can have 1 session per week with our expert coach, and it's going to be $110. Which one would suit you better? Oh, no brainer. Less money for more sessions. I'm going to be taking option number 1. So it's an A and B sell. We're giving people autonomy in the sales process to choose, but we've just, by having the one-on-one so high, we've now made the semi-private more appealing, more sexy, and more valuable.
Yeah. And then so with the 21-day kickstart, they get access to 2 sessions a week, and then they're just rolling through into, $89 a week or whatever you price it. Just the same as a normal sale, essentially.
The same as a normal sale. And now what we're doing, because I've had 2 different gyms myself where we've rolled this out, both very different, is we're doing semi-private on its own or semi-private plus you get access to the group sessions as well. But again, that's based on a diagnostic model. Hey, look, you're moving really well in these semi-privates. Let's keep these up. But in addition, let's get you in here a couple more times a week in the groups. And that's an extra whatever it is per week.
Yeah. And that comes because they get customized programming, right? So it's like, let's do your 2 semi-privates and, cardio session on a Saturday, however they map it out.
That's right. Exactly right.
And then, so you're selling this just kind of like face-to-face consultation or over the phone?
No. So our model at the moment primarily is we sell, look, there's 2 ways you can go about it. You can either just sell it direct over the phone. It's 147 thereabouts or 149. Easy sale over the phone. Our tendency right now, because we're doing more of a diagnostic sell, is we will triage them over the phone, get them in for a face-to-face consult. Based on what we see, based on what we hear, we'll then make a prescription based on that face-to-face consult on whether they're going into the team training or whether they're going into the semi-private training.
Yeah, nice, mate. Very, very simple. And just say, so guys, where's the best place to contact you, Dan, to have a chat about this stuff?
Facey. I've got a full-time team member that manages my my messages, so you can always reach out, although I might have to change that given your experience, mate. But definitely the Facebook is where you can get me. And I've got a free training as well on semi-private. So if anyone listening would like that free training, hit me up with a message. Just go, heard you with the great Jimmy P. I'd love that training, and it's all yours.
And mate, I always like to finish the podcast to give people a couple of action steps. So, first action step, guys, is like reach out to Dan if you have any questions, of course. But just say someone goes, yep, Dan, what you said makes sense. They're not running semi-privates at the moment, or maybe they're doing it and they're doing, maybe not the best, service. It's not doing that well. What would be a couple of steps that you give them so they can start to win, over the next couple of days if they do want to do semi-private or really, make their current semi-privates a lot better?
Yeah, look, I think get really clear on the value proposition. So are you just doing it because you want another revenue layer, or is it a really distinct product and service that delivers a different level of value and potentially to even a different demographic as well? Okay, so that would be really clear, is really think about the value proposition and what gap does it solve? What problem does it solve within your facility, and who is going to utilize it? That would be the next step. Then the third is have a look at your current model, review it and filter it through what we've talked about, get my free training, filter it through there and go, how can I actually enhance the product, service, marketing, pricing so it's clearly differentiated and it really shines on its own? They would be, the next steps that I would take. And then the third one would be then just bloody launch it, but do it with a beta program. So I always recommend a beta program. It's a great way to market. It's a great excuse for marketing as well, but it also allows you to trial something without too much pressure as you go through.
And the beta would just be like 2 days a week to test, like 8 weeks, 2 days a week, 8 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, even shorter. We generally just do it for, 2 to 4 weeks, 2 days a week, put a beta group in there and you'll get so much great feedback from the members, but also just from running it yourself. And then you'll be clear on what you need to do to improve the product moving forward.
Yeah. And mate, with the class structure, would you run these 6 days a week? Is that like 3 classes morning, 2 night? How did it kind of work like that?
Yeah, so I think we're running most days on the semi-private and class. We don't run them concurrent all the time. We run more classes than semi-privates right now, but we run them concurrent, and I do that purposely. And you got to give people access to mornings, nights, most days, but we do it concurrently so people can, in the groups, are looking over and they're doing kick sits and they're like, holy shit, look at that stuff over there. They're doing barbell snatches. I want to be doing that. So then they inquire about that as well as you go through. I work on capacity. So I've got a capacity formula that we utilize. So we might launch with fewer sessions. Then when we get X amount of capacity, we increase the sessions. So you're not paying for staffing of sessions where maybe only 1 or 2 people are turning up as well.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best books I ever read. It's called Oversubscribed. I'm not sure who it's by, but it was a classic book. Because
I
I
think
think
that's
there's
Daniel.
some
Is that Daniel Priestley?
obviously, yeah,
Oversubscribed.
it is
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, yeah. And it's like you don't have to go to launch semi-private 6 days a week today. You can do, 2 days a week, just sell that $89, $100 package. Once that gets full or closer to capacity, would you get them to open one other day or 2 other days? How do you kind of recommend, Dan, with that?
Yeah, just one other day. And then once they start filling up, one other day. In my first studio, we started with one session a week. No, maybe two sessions. Started with 2 sessions a week. And then when I sold that, we were rolling out 17 sessions per week. And we were just gradually increasing it as we were going through. So, that's the process right now. It's a newer product in our gym. We've been focusing on team training. We've got about 30 team training classes, but we've only probably got half a dozen, maybe more, maybe 8 thereabouts, semi-private. But I know in 6 months' time, it will be, probably 15 semi-private. So we'll just gradually increase day by day as that formula gets up to the critical hit point.
And mate, just one last thing on sales. So you mentioned like a couple of key questions between, what's the difference between a person who, does the large group training and personal training, like the semi-private. What are some of the key questions you ask in a sales process to identify what they're a best fit for? Maybe just like 2 or 3s to help people on their way a bit.
Yeah, so we will ask people, when was the last time you were in a gym, or have you been in a gym before? Get an idea of preference. Did you work with a trainer one-on-one, or were you in groups? What did you prefer? So kind of get to understand their personality a little bit. Get to understand where they are in their terms of movement capacity and also their fitness and strength. Hey, have you got any injuries at the moment? Is there any niggles? Is there any pains? Is there anything that's inhibiting what you're doing on a daily basis? Because their little red flags for semi-private's going to be a better product at that point for them. So, and you can even ask them, like, do you prefer to work out, in a small group or a big group? Do you really are you quite a social person where you like to be around a lot of people, or do you like more of your privacy as well? So you can start to ask on personality, but also then just need. So whether that's strength, whether that's fitness, whether that's movement capacity, that's a great way of directing them from one product to the other.
Yeah, and I know when we were growing quickly in our gyms, we had a lot of issues for a while there of putting the wrong people in the groups. And what we always used to say to our trainers, like a test, it's like, hey, you're running these large groups. You know what makes a good class and what makes a bad class. This person's not going to fit into a group because they've got like a dodgy knee, a dodgy shoulder. Also, as well, like if they haven't lifted much before, they don't have great experience, and you're like, hey, come in with a group of 5 people. We're doing an AMRAP, which is like kettlebell swings to dumbbell, snatch, right? If they can't do that, then they need to do personal training to work themselves up to the group, whereas semi-private is really, really good, because we found our best clients in the large groups, and we'll just put people in the groups after a while, but our best clients are those ones that did personal training for like a year. So go in and they would have flawless form, and then all you have to do is just get them to train a bit harder. But if you have a lot of people, guys, as you know, in large groups who don't know how to do things, who are, let's just be honest, a fucking nightmare, they have lots of injuries and stuff, it actually ruins the customer experience for everyone else in the group, because you're with that one person like 60% of the time, where semi-private would be a really great onboarding to those large groups, and they might stay forever, but at least they can change over, go back and forth, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly how we're using it right now. Like if anyone has been sedentary for a long time or has injuries, then they straight away go into the semi-private kickstart. And then at the end, we might go, well, look, you're actually ready for the groups. Why don't you jump in our group training membership? Or you can stay here and you can do a combo of both. But we're using it as an onboard as well. So, it's interesting. I was reading today how to never lose a customer again. And one of the examples in the book is San Diego CrossFit. So 21st CrossFit that opened up in the world. Yeah, yes, they do. And so it's Kelly Starrett's gym. And one of the things that they did really, really well is they did exactly what you're talking about. They didn't throw people into some like wad that's going to make you vomit and walk like Frankenstein for a week. They put you into a number of personal training sessions so that when you got in, you felt confident, You felt a little bit more secure, but it was better for the participants. It was better for the person. It was better for the coach. And semi-private can definitely work really nicely in that respect.
100%. So guys, thank you so much for those who watched along or listened. Remember, if you ever want to contact me directly, the best place is Instagram, Jimmy_Pomponio. If you liked what you watched or listened to, send me a message. I'll get Dan back on. I think probably the next one together, Dan, would be really good on like membership models, different types of pricing and things like that. But mate, thank you so much for jumping on today. I really, really appreciate it. And guys, if you ever have any questions or want to connect with Dan, search for him on Facebook, or you can connect with me on Instagram, and then I can connect you up. I think it's the Coach of Coaches on Instagram, Dan.
It is indeed.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much, buddy.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Jimmy. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. Really appreciate you.